work I'm going to analyze is Didi wanted her daughter to be sick, Gypsy wanted her mom murdered. My favorite part about this nonfiction is its creative writing skill. The whole story unfolds like a detective story. The title of the article is super intriguing. In our common opinions, mothers would try their best to protect their children. How could a mother want her daughter to be sick? Also, for children, mothers are the closest ones in the world. Why a daughter want her mother to be killed? In the lines under the title, the author tells us the murdered mother had always been taking care of her ill daughter who is not sick at all. If the daughter is not sick, why her mother does so? All the information sounds like a mystery film. However, as we know this is a non-fiction work, we assume this unimaginable information here is the truth. The audience would wonder what leads to this weird and horrible situation. After reading these several lines, their attention is already tightly hooked. This nonfiction talked about how the mother Didi, with Munchausen syndrome by proxy, controlled and feigned physical symptoms to her daughter Gypsy for 23 years, and finally she is killed by Gypsy and her boyfriend. Munchausen syndrome by proxy, abbreviated as MSBP, is a form of child abuse wherein the mother fossilizes illness in her child through simulation or production of illness and presents the child for medical care, disclaiming knowledge as to the etiology of the problem. I think the author shows great empathy towards Gypsy. In the highlighted parts, she cites a word in the interview with Gypsy that shows her regret and emotional attachment towards her mother, and emphasizes that she still knows the difference between good and bad, even though she grew up in a way that the line between right and wrong is blurred by her mother. The author declares that parents make your world, stating it's reasonable for Gypsy to spend many years suffering the miserable lives without realizing she's normal, which strongly evokes the empathy of the audience towards Gypsy. There are many details showing how Gypsy is raised in distortion. For example, at the beginning of the article, the author depicts how Gypsy appears to be a sick, poor girl under the care of her mother. This draws a huge contrast with the later description of how healthy she actually is without those treatments. By citing the words of Stanfield that, different from others, Gypsy gained weight in prison where food is bad, we can imagine how she is tortured by malnutrition brought by my mother before. Also, the words of Kim proves how Gypsy's actual health condition is so different from the description of her mother. In contrast, in this nonfiction, it seems there is not much empathy for Didi, though she is murdered. After the truth of murder is revealed, all the words and people in this nonfiction are against Didi. Neighbors are feeling guilty about not rescuing Gypsy earlier from this situation, but don't show any sympathy for Didi. She's depicted as an evil woman, besides behaving like a control freak towards Gypsy as a result of MSBP. Didi also lied about Gypsy's father and described him as a family abuser who mistreats Gypsy, while her father actually cares a lot about his daughter. All these make Didi an abominable woman. I think the biggest reason lead to our hatred towards Didi is we assume that mothers should protect their children instead of harming them. As normal people, we don't know the psychology of people with MSBP, and we can't understand their actions. In this sense, what we see is family abuse. If a mother mistreats her daughter, this makes audience feel Didi doesn't love Gypsy. However, we can't deny her company and care towards the sick Gypsy she created, as shown in the beginning of the article. Is this love in her eyes? We don't know. All the people are interpreting this story with the eyes of normal people, not Didi's. After reading papers about MSBP, I still can't mitigate my bias that women with this syndrome are not good mothers. But I become aware of their complex affection towards their children. There is no absolute villain in this tragedy. They're just human beings. I hope people can pay more attention to MSBP to prevent similar tragedies from happening in the future again.